sitting in Rabbi Schulweiss's old office, downstairs in the corner, with Rabbi Schulweiss, Rabbi Danzig, and Sheila Krasnov. And we were discussing how to set up a group of middle-aged Jewish singles. And all of a sudden, this little guy runs in, shouting and yelling in Hebrew. And the two rabbis stood up, and it looked to me like they were shivering in their shoes. And they were nodding and agreeing. And whatever the little guy said, they went like this. And he just kept yelling, and they both said, yes. And finally he said, okay, in English, and ran out. And the two rabbis appeared to slip into their seats and start kind of deep breathing. And I turned to Sheila and I said, who is that? And she said, Yossi Dresner. The next time I met him, I had been assigned to Ami Oloni's old office. And if you remember, that was right next door to his. I was working on that Jewish singles project. Now, I had lived in Israel for about 10 years, and my kids grew up there. So when I heard this beautiful Sabra Hebrew, I decided to check it out. So when I heard a break in the chanting, I went next door and I knocked on the door and I said, hi, Shmi Maxima, and I'm next door. And he said, hi, I'm Yossi, and if I don't want to, I don't have to work another day in my life. And I have a Jewish gift. Money and a divorce. That's quite a good opener. We decided to meet that evening after work. We walked over to McDonald's. And we sat and talked. At least Yossi talked. I found out he kept a kosher home. Okay, he was negotiating. He also kept kosher outside the house. He taught bar and bat mitzvah. He had just become the new ritual director. His father was Orthodox, his mother wasn't. No brothers or sisters, neither did I. We talked and we found out that our vuz background, even though his was from Tel Aviv and mine was from Beverly Hills, it left us a lot in common. And when we left, we both felt that we had a real kesher, a connection. And we decided that we really wanted to see each other. On our next date, Yossi brought me flowers. They were typical Yossi. He had been to the shul to a wedding. We continued to see each other exclusively. And then he started complaining about where I lived. He lived in North Hollywood, and I lived up in Topanga Canyon. And he began to describe my location as geographically incompatible. One thing led to another, and it was November of 1988, and I was taking my daughter Robin with me, and we were going to New York because I was supposed to give a paper there. I agreed that when I returned, I would move in with him. Now, as I said, Yossi lived in North Hollywood. And before I left, I cased the joint. This is what I did. I looked all over, and what I found in the master bathroom were 3 bottles of different colored hair color. Now, I knew his mother had been to visit, so I figured, okay, 1 bottle might have been hers, but 3? Okay, I wasn't about to move in with my hair color and my toothpaste. So on moving day, I found that Yossi had bought me a very cute mug that said Baruch Haba, which meant welcome in Hebrew. And I also found that he had gone into shock because I had moved in my piano, my dining room set, my living room furniture, and everything else. And he said to me, "It looks like you plan to stay a while." I said, "I do indeed." So when the calls continued to come in from all his ex-girlfriends, and there were a lot, I handled them. And they ultimately stopped. And that's how Yossi and I became a couple. I used to tease him, and I used to say, "You didn't realize it was happening, did you?" But now I'm not so sure. Nothing happens with Yossi that he doesn't 100% want. We decided to get married, and we set the date for June 11th, which was the day after I would receive my doctorate, which was on June 10th. We also decided that we would each sell our respective houses, and we would buy a house together that was walking distance between the shul and my old office, which was on Ventura and Libbek. We put our plan together in April 1989. It was a great real estate market for sellers. There was a bidding war for my house, and it sold overnight. Yossi's took a little longer, but not more than a few days. The problem was on the buyer's side. We had limited ourselves to a very small area, and there wasn't a lot for sale. On a Friday afternoon, I found our house. I was so excited. I called Yossi at the shul. He was teaching. I said, "Yos, come right over. The house hasn't gone on the market. If you agree, we can make an offer and it's ours." He said, "I can't. I'm teaching right up until sundown." I said, "Yos, cancel one student. If not, when it goes on the market on Saturday, it'll sell and we'll lose it by Sunday." He said, "I can't leave a student. I have a commitment. If it's b'shert, if it's meant to be our house, then we'll get it." I said, "Yos, God helps those who help themselves." If it's supposed to be ours, it will be. Well, as I predicted, the house sold to someone else on Saturday. I cannot share with you the depths of my frustration. I love this man, but I began to question everything. Was this reasonable? Was this fanaticism? What was I dealing with? I had never in my life known anybody like this. And he kept reassuring me, if the house was meant to be ours, we still would get it. I couldn't deal with him. I couldn't even talk to him. And then, hold the music. 5 days later, the house fell out of escrow. That was our house, the one we've been joyfully living in for 22 years. That's Yossi. Trust him. Sometimes blindly. He's got great instincts. He's got great faith. That's something I've learned over the years. Another thing I've learned about Yossi is his deep-rooted honor and integrity. I've had the opportunity to observe him over these past 22 years and watched the way he makes decisions. As I've said, this is a man you can trust implicitly. And so that's why I'm standing up here tonight, to honor the man I respect, admire, and love with all my heart, Yossi Dresner of Valley Beth Shalom.